Hey Tegan, what's in the bag? It's the show where I come home from the comic book store and we look at what I bought because, say it with me folks, I spend too much money on comic books. I really spend too much money on comic books. I need to spend less money on comic books. I think he agrees. Are you satisfied? Well, he's satisfied. Anyway, we're not going to read all of Superman versus Muhammad Ali because this is a massive comic book. If you look at the size of my hand and the size of the cat here, you'll see this is a treasury size facsimile edition. And I know I go on about these facsimile editions. I just think for all the problems they do have, and they have problems, they're just wonderful objects. They're for books that you can't afford to own a real one, and definitely, you don't necessarily want to shell out for a nice copy of the original. Not when you can go to the store and pay $14.99. That's not nothing. But there are very few Superman stories that I think should be in everyone's household. This is one of them. And to have a copy like this, my previous copy, because I do not have a copy of the original Treasury, I have a comic book size hardcover, nice hardcover, but it's just a regular comic book size, so it shrunk down considerably. And even then, it's a great comic book just to flip through because it looks great. But then you read it, and it really is, I think, one of the best Superman stories of all time. And I'm not just saying that because they actually they find a thread, and it's hokey. It had to be a comic that could be read and understood by a lot of people. So it's, Superman and Muhammad Ali versus alien invaders. And the story is framed in, just such a way that Muhammad Ali's skill set is equally useful as Superman's. And that probably took a bit of doing on the part of, I think it's Neil Adams. And I just said I wasn't, because we could be looking at this thing all night. I just want to tell you that it exists, because I don't know if your store, wherever you buy your, comic books, I don't know if they ordered enough copies. So if you want it, this is something to look out for, because I think a lot of people, once you see it on your hand, how big it is, like I say, this is not the first copy of this story I bought, and yet this was the number one thing I wanted when I went into the store today. This is just a fantastic story on every level. I love it. You should go get it. Consider it. If you have not already had the pleasure, a personal recommendation from me to you. Then there's this. This came out a few weeks ago. This actually isn't new this week. But by the time I got to the shop, they'd already sold out of the A cover. And this is the A cover. It was a simple matter for them to order me another copy of the cover I wanted. That's the joys of the direct market. They can do things like that for you. So I got the good cover. This is a fantastic cover. I do believe that the A cover is, by the series artist, Jacen Burrows. And it does such a wonderful job. I haven't read a page of it, but it does such a wonderful job of selling this series, this character, everything you need to know in one image right here. And it's got the same kind of energy as that Garth Ennis time travel book that we read on the TikTok. And I love that book. It's called Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal. It is an excellent series. I recommend it highly. That's where I first really started paying attention to Goran Sajuka. And this looks at a glance to be tapping a similar vein, albeit in a, self-evidently a sword and sorcery milieu, which, well, all right. I wouldn't be surprised if Garth Ennis had written some Conan at some point, and if he hasn't written Conan, maybe we should get on that. But they published a lot of Conan comic books, like a Dark Horse, that I wasn't paying too much attention to. But he's not the first guy you think of, like with the caveat that I think he'd be great for someone like Conan. He's just not the first guy you think of for sword and sorcery, nor, for time travel, light sex comedy. And Marjorie Finnegan was great. It's fantastic. I love that book. I hope they make another. I hope they make a TV show. I would watch that TV show so fast. I think this late in his career to be having such good luck with fun material, like genuinely fun books, not full of bitter comedy or any real political rants, like some older comics people. He just seems to really be leaning into writing funny comics lately, and I'm all for it. This is my Garth Ennis. I started buying Garth Ennis because he was writing The Demon, and that was one of the funniest books that DC has ever published. And he went and did Hitman with John McCree right after. That was published at the same time as Preacher, like they had almost the concurrent runs. And yet Hitman sold just a little bit less, got a little bit less attention. And it ended, I want to say it ended earlier than they would have liked, but they got 5 years out of it. So, they've done a couple, one-shots and stuff since then. But the character, I believe, is dead and has stayed dead because they just, they killed him in the last issue of the series. And really, you read that book, as much as you love that character, you can't say, okay, yeah, maybe everyone sort of got what was coming to him by the end there. You don't usually say that about, mainstream DC books. And yet that was a mainstream DC book for 5 years. And, Preacher was very funny throughout. But I think Hitman got because it was a bit more overtly fantasy and being, at least ostensibly part of the DC universe. I think people just took it a bit less seriously. And I like it when Garth Ennis doesn't necessarily take himself seriously. I'm not saying that his horror comics aren't good or that, all those, stories about our boys out there being betrayed by the military-industrial complex. Those are good stories, serious stories. But I feel like for too long here, Garth has been making stories for Tucker. And now I feel like maybe he's making more stories for Tegan. And that makes me very happy indeed. I've been wanting to read this series since I first heard about it. Doesn't hurt that it's coming out from Ahoy Comics. I don't know if this is the first thing Garth Ennis has done with Ahoy. But Ahoy, I've been trying to push them under the radar here because I feel like no one's really been paying attention to what they've been putting out. But they did a series, 2 years ago, I think, called Guilt, Gilt. I wrote about it for the Journal. An absolutely fantastic series that I don't think anyone paid attention to but me, but it was excellent. Highly recommended. This company is basically more or less put together by Tom Payer's Rolodex, and it's a testament to his career that so many good creatives have been, through this company. Not just big name guys, a lot of, younger, good talent coming up. Matt Boers is writing The Toxic Avenger. He had another series with them too. Matt Boers, he should have been writing Spider-Man probably 5 years ago. That's Marvel's fault right there, straight up. They probably could have snagged that for a song, and they just didn't. But he's doing Toxic Avenger now with Fred Harper, and so there's a few pages of that in the back. But the main story here: Garth Ennis, Jacen Burrows, Andy Troy colorist, Rob Steen lettering. So yeah, this is your Red Sonja figure. Chainmail. That's not more like a cutoff crop top, I guess. Chainmail crop top. Oh, this goddamn chainmail is going to chew my fucking nipples off. Well, there you go. Oh, and there's leprechauns. You know you're in a Garth Ennis comic book when leprechauns are just being murdered by the bushel. You know he loves writing that. He writes that like he's falling out of bed. One of these days, for Udder Madness, we're going to talk about the Spawn Witchblade, and that story is filled with hatred for leprechauns. So yeah, it's looks like everyone's hanging out at a tavern fight. Oh, there's a goblin. There's a goblin doing something. So what's the hook on the last page? Is this really an isekai or something? Oh, the sword. She's having a conversation with the sword. It's fantastic. That's fantastic. Oh, and it's a bear and a chipmunk. Okay. Give it the fucking horse. That right there, folks. This is definitely a Garth Ennis fantasy comic. Fantastic. Oh my God. Yes. My goodness. So yes, it was worth waiting for that cover I wanted, but this was a book that was worth waiting for. Man, I'm into this. I haven't even really read it yet, and I'm into it already. Oh wow, that's cool. Fred Harper. Whoa, that is actually a really cool looking book. That looks like oh man, was that Major Bummer? Was that Doug Mahnke's? Was that Arcudi? See, I don't remember because I didn't buy it, so I only read a little bit of it. But it was really it had a strong following, and it was where Doug Mahnke really seemed to come into his own. That was before he did, a couple years on JLA. So yeah, I don't know if anyone was clamoring. No offense to the movies, they're fun. I don't know if anyone was clamoring for the Toxic Avenger to come back, but straight up, like just Matt Boers doing the Toxic Avenger might have a little bit of sauce to it. I don't know. Oh, that's a nice cover. Who did the other covers for it, since we're in the neighborhood? Chris Burnham. Oh yeah, that's right. Amanda Connor. It took a real force of will. It is a testament to this cover being so strong. I actually didn't bring home the Amanda Connor cover. In a vacuum, I might gravitate towards the Amanda Connor. I really like Amanda Connor. I think Amanda Connor is actually extraordinarily underrated. But that's another conversation. Speaking of Doug Mahnke, here's this thing, which is coming out sporadically. Was this like 6 issues long? I don't even remember. Continued. So I don't know if it's 6, 8, 12. I'm on board for the duration because I know it's a finite series. But this is basically the Batman book to give Denny O'Neil some sort of embolism, because this is essentially the first time Batman in his early career decided to go into deep space by himself, which, if you think about it, that's actually a pretty strong hook. That is a hook that goes back to sort of the year one period, but it's a story that the year one people would never, ever have thought to tell. So it's got a little bit of juice, for being, something that people are, something that I think that people are a lot more accepting of, which is, Batman in a science fiction context. There's, Grant Morrison is probably the big proponent of that. But Credit to them. They made it stick. I think science fiction is actually a perfectly fine mode for Batman. There's a touch of sci-fi, in his DNA. It's not all, hard-boiled noir. But every now and again, a story like this that can, just totally embrace it, put Batman in space, in outer space, fighting aliens, that makes, frankly, given the Batman that we have, that makes perfect sense that he would do something like that. Go out into the universe to learn how to fight aliens. Batman the Barbarian. Oh, I hate that looks like something I might buy. It looks like it's going to look very nice. And the one thing you can say about DC, that DC still has, and Marvel does not have quite as consistently, is that they can still put out a really nice looking comic book when they want to. Like this book here, this has Doug Mahnke, who was doing it's on the back page. Doug Mahnke, Jaime Mendoza on inks, colors by David Barron, letters by Troy Pateri, written by Jacen Aaron. So it's taken a while to come out. But it looks like he took his time doing it. Because I think he's produced a lot of very nice looking comic books. Certainly. And, interesting hook, okay. There's Batman. Is he using nth metal? Oh, that looks like that might be nth metal to fight a guy with wings. No, this is great. This is fun stuff. It's Jacen Aaron, and Jacen Aaron runs hot or cold for me. I don't like a lot of his more serious stuff, but I think he's perfectly fine at high concept, big plot, genre material. I think his Avengers was generally readable, although I still haven't read the last act of it. Looks like it kind of gets out there. But, I'd rather there were still mainstream guys who felt like were still at least trying to write something they thought was weird. And man, I haven't really got a feel for Chip Zdarsky at all yet as a writer, I have to say. In terms of mainstream Big Two stuff. Haven't really picked up on that identity. Some of his stuff seems, I don't know, very professional, I'll say that. But man, look at this. Look at these artists they're still getting for the regular Batman book. Jorge Jimenez, Giuseppe Comunicoli, Andrea Sorrentino, Stefano Nisi. Yeah, that's a good lineup. I just didn't like what I read of it. And so he's going around the universe dealing with aliens and robots, and he gets in with this Tamaranian criminal, I think. So yeah, I realized I passed right over it last week. I didn't comment on it. They put in a page for Trina Robbins. She really didn't do that much. I think she did a couple Wonder Woman things, but just her impact on, the character in the industry was enough for them to set that page aside. So, oh goodness. Wait, what? What am I looking at? I feel like something in the universe just broke. I don't know why that's there. So yeah, I seem to be a sucker for the barbarians. Give me a guy with a sword, man. Give me a guy with a sword, and I will, pretty much watch it. I'll be down with it, even if it's terrible for the most part. As long as I see a dude with a sword, I know, okay, someone's gonna get stabbed at some point. That should be fun to watch. Speaking of which, yes, I'm still on board Titans Conan. I know I am thinking about seriously doing some belt tightening here with the comic book buying, and one of the things that's occurred to me is I think I might be more down with the black and white Conan book than the color book. maybe I can, ease off buying the color book month to month. But I think I want to buy this every time I see it, because this is a gorgeous book, straight up. It just got started. This is the 4th issue, but the first volume of Savage Sword of Conan ran for almost well over 200 issues, and then Marvel did another iteration of a black and white magazine once more, Conan the Savage, I think. And then they gave up on the black and white magazine. What are you doing? So yeah, I'm really excited to see large format black and white work. Really, the fact that it's Conan is a cherry on top. But I love this large scale black and white format. I think it is such a great format for comics, and the fact that it is almost completely forgotten. Savage Sword of Conan is back, but it's been a while since Marvel has tried. Now, Marvel is nothing if not an advantageous thief. I don't know how well this is selling. If it's selling enough that they can keep making more of them, I don't know. Maybe Marvel might do another black and white book. DC, well, they had Batman black and white, but they didn't really have anywhere near as much equity. Possibly very little equity in the black and white magazine market. That was Warren and Marvel and Mad. But, man, this is a big magazine. We're not going to read it in detail. But the first few issues seemed like they only had a couple of features each. This one has a number of different features. So I want to say they're introducing a crossover. Yeah, that might be my time. The more I think about it, that might actually be my cue to stop buying the regular Conan book. But I'm going to keep buying. I'm going to keep buying Savage Sword. I think you should start buying Savage Sword too. Who's doing this first part? Jim Zub. So this is the first part of the crossover with Fernando Danino work. He is just tearing the kitchen apart. I don't know what his problem is. Some weird barbarian dude. We're profiting in some ways from the exchange rate still being so strong. That's why there's so many European and even Japanese names. Think about Peach Momoko, an absolute giant over here. Why is she working over here? Well, she makes really good money being a big fish in this pond out here. I'm not saying she couldn't be popular in her own market, but that it makes economic sense for her to make that decision, I think, considering, someone like her or Guri Hiru. That's telling. And certainly a lot of these European names, you see, only make sense in a world where the dollar is still holding up pretty good against the euro. And of course, that doesn't do anything. Oh, so this is Solomon Kane. Is this still, I want to say Patch Zurcher. Yeah, he's been writing and drawing this Solomon Kane back up here, which, Solomon Kane, he was never really my guy. Is very dry. Like, this is about as dry as adventure material still gets in comic books. Is Solomon Kane, who's just a dour, religious guy who's living in a religious society. And, his stories are usually very grim. He's never having to make good decisions. Solomon Kane never shows up because something good is about to happen. Brissa. So this is another Jim Zub with Dean Kotz. Interesting. This is nice, different. This looks like it might be digital with the way they're applying these shades here. See, people messing around, experimenting, trying to figure out what works on the black and white page that never stops being the most fascinating aspect of comic books, just about. Just figuring out all the weird things you can do with black and white. Jeffrey Shanks and Eric Donovan. Conrad and Kiro. Okay, so I guess we're on to the Howard stories that only the real aficionados go for. It's like, with Agatha Christie. You got Poirot, you got Miss Marple. Everyone knows those two. And then there's this, I can't even remember their names, like twins or brothers or something. No one knows who those people are. I guess these are the Howard equivalent. But here's Dark Agnes. I actually picked up a couple Dark Agnes books in a discount box not that long ago. Marvel did, I think, like one. This is interesting. Who's doing this? Fred Kennedy and artist Andy Bellinger. Okay. My goodness, look at this. Look at this. Folks. I know Dark Agnes is not exactly the, most famous member of the Howard menagerie, but straight up, she could launch her own franchise if anyone ever just put her in a real movie. And the fact that she's got the Robert E. Howard name means that maybe someday someone will do just that. But so far as I know, it hasn't happened yet. There's a lot in Howard. The problem is, look at this guy's ink line here. This is fantastic. Folks, this is good. This Dark Agnes story. Yeah. I'm down. And you get a nice, pin-up of her with her cutlass and her what do they call those things? I'm not a gun person. I'm sorry, I don't remember what that's called. It's a pistol. I don't remember the specific type of pistol. El Borak. Ron Mars. I know Ron Mars. He's a huge Howard guy. Because he was, for some reason, I remember him talking about the one of the Solomon Kane movies, like the last one they did, didn't get released in this country. For some reason, I remember him saying that. So yeah, okay, Ron Mars. He goes for the really dry stuff. El Borak. So, archaeologist, desert adventure, following some archaeology-themed desert adventure with, various people trying to kill him. Probably not quite so palatable in its original form. Mike Perkins, that's a nice piece. That's Roberto Della Torre. He's the regular Conan guy who has seen a little bit of John Buscema in his days. That's nice. That is a nice piece. That guy knows how to use his brush. Yeah, man, I want to see the Dark Agnes. I'm ready for the Dark Agnes revolution. What? Rialto? Oh, this is their guy selling Conan stuff. Okay. Man, why can't they make another good movie of this guy? Why is that so hard? You'd think it'd be the simplest thing in the world to take that guy. Oh, speaking of which, it looks like Jason Aaron's in the next one. I think this isn't the first, or I don't think this is the first Conan he's done. Jeff Isherwood. He drew a lot of Conan back in the day. I'm really looking forward to see him drawing Conan today. Young Conan tale. Colossal covers from Joe Jusko and Alex Horley. You got some of the best artists on the planet crawling out of the woodwork to draw our guy again. Like I say, I think the monthly, maybe it's time for me to bow out from the monthly. I'm glad it's a success. I'm glad people are digging Conan again. I'm glad people are digging Conan enough again that they can make an audience for the Savage Sword of Conan, because this is a good magazine. Right here. $6.99. That's not even that bad. You could, you know, maybe cut $1 off of this and you could put that back on newsstands. Are they going to? I don't know. Titan isn't from here. They're crazy. They could do anything. Oh, well. Now, the first thing I want to do is point you in the direction of this. Came out just a little bit ago. Comics Journal Yearbook Best of 2023. It's got 10 articles about 10 of the best comics of last year by 10 of the best writers about comics working today, including they just happened to let yours truly in through the back door to write about Dan Clowes and Mahnke. That should be available at your comic book store, or if not, ask them to order it. Tell them that Tegan told you to do it. Besides that, I'll point you towards the other videos on this channel. I put up videos about new comics, old comics, comics with a spine. I do daily comic book reviews on TikTok and Instagram. I have a podcast with Claire Napier where we talk about Top Cow Comics. That's Mark Silvestri, Michael Turner, Witchblade, The Darkness, Cyberforce, all that good stuff. We just put up a bonus episode a couple weeks ago about the first issue of the new volume of Witchblade. It's up at the Patreon right now if you want to go check it out. At some point, I'm going to have something else in the Comics Journal. I need to get off my butt and finish something. I'd just like to urge you to check out the Patreon once more. If you like these videos, if you like anything I do, that's how you show your support. If you like these videos, please pass the link around. Tell your friends so we can get more people in the party here. If we get more people, then maybe we'll get I don't know, we'll get a local punk band together to play a show at the Armory. I don't know. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Please, take care of yourself. Vibe's kind of weird right now, so, cut yourself some slack. You should go to the movies.